Coming up, I'll tell you all about our trip to Las Vegas and the NFB of Nevada State Convention. Stick with me.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of I Can't See You, your window into a world where blindness doesn't dictate ability. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials, and welcome inside Studio B. And I'm hoping the 75th time is the charm on this episode that I started to record over a week ago. But I won't get into the technical issues I've had. Here's what I wanted to talk about. As I mentioned in the intro, Liz and I went to Las Vegas for the National Federation of the Blind of Nevada State Convention. And you're saying, why did I go to that? I went to that because I am the chair of the NFB of Pennsylvania State Convention coming up in November in Harrisburg. And I know Las Vegas and Harrisburg are not similar, not in the least. First of all, there's no In-N-Out Burger, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. I wanted to go to see how other states ran their conventions, what they might have done and what they do differently from the Pennsylvania convention. I wanted to go in the spring because our convention is in the fall. And by going in the spring, even though we've started planning, we can still make a lot of changes. And the real deep stuff doesn't get started until National Convention comes in July. That's usually when we put our tickets on sale for the state convention that, again, happens in November. So I've been keeping my eyes peeled for notices of what conventions might be coming up. And there were a couple. There was one in Nebraska, and the timing didn't work out. And there was one in Missouri, which I might have chosen had Las Vegas not have been an issue. And I picked Las Vegas because I thought Liz might want to go. We don't get a chance to go and do things together very often. The last time we went away together was last summer when we went to the NFB National Convention in Orlando. And Liz is going again in July to the National Convention in New Orleans. So we went to Vegas for me to learn, but so Liz could also have some time off and do things. And we got to go to some of the restaurants in Vegas. Okay, we went to 2 restaurants in Vegas. And I already mentioned one of them. Don't tell me that doesn't count. We liked it. We went there twice. I'll talk about the restaurants in a little bit. But we wanted to do that, and I wanted to see what I could learn from the Nevada convention that I could use in the Pennsylvania State Convention. And first of all, their convention is very, very short. They start at 6 p.m. on Friday. It's all day Saturday, and then it's done by noon on Sunday. The Pennsylvania State Convention starts technically at around 1 p.m. on Thursday with a tech seminar for 3 or 4 hours. Then Thursday night, there's a veteran celebration, which will be a little bit different this year. And then this year, we're going to play Family Feud, which is what they actually did in Las Vegas, which was very cool. So I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Friday in Pennsylvania, we start off bright and early. All right, maybe not at the crack of 9 a.m. And we start with division meetings and things like that. Then there's a board meeting. And then a couple other things go on. And then Friday night, my favorite thing is the auction. And we usually do pretty well at the auction. And I'll get to all that in Nevada in a couple of minutes. Then Saturday, like in Nevada, was general sessions. And general sessions vary. Now, they did do something in Nevada that we have never done, to the best of my knowledge, in Pennsylvania. And again, this is my first year acting as chair of the convention. In Nevada, at one point, they had different tracks, and one was on mobility training, one was on the meta glasses, which I have, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And then one was on things that you can do around your house to make things easier, whether it's cleaning or cooking or whatever it might be. So it was much more manageable for each presenter in those tracks because you only had, I don't know how many people they had at their convention, but you had between 15 and 20 people per track. So I started off in the track that did the mobility, which was cane training. and people watched as you did things and said, oh, you could do this a little different, or you're doing great. This is how you could do it if you're doing this or whatever. Somebody else, another group was in with the meta glasses, and then the third group was in with the folks talking about the stuff you could do at home to make things easier. And then after, I don't remember, 15 minutes to a half an hour, you switched and you moved on to another track. So that was very interesting. And again, we don't do that with our convention. If there is something going on, or if there is one meeting doing this thing, and then there's a meeting, like during the tech seminar, there was also something else running. So you either go to the tech seminar or you go to the other thing. You don't get a chance to, oh, let me go back and see what went on. If you go to the one, you miss the other. And so I thought that was kind of neat because in this instance, everybody got to see it and you didn't miss anything. So that's general sessions. Then there's a break. And then Saturday night with our convention and with Nevada's convention, it's banquet night where you get dressed up. They had a great meal. One of their members, Regina Mitchell, is a trained chef, and she did the menu. She didn't actually make all of the meals for it, but she created the menu and gave the hotel instructions. Here's what we need. Here's how we're going to do it, and so forth and so on. And it was very good. We're not going to get that in Pennsylvania. There's nobody like that here. So we're at the hotel's mercy. And then in Nevada, after the convention and after the banquet was an auction. Now their auction was very small. They only had 5 or 6 items. I want to say they took in maybe $500 or $600. Last year at the convention in Erie, I think our auction took in around $2,500, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't remember the actual number because we also had bingo in with it last year, which just took the fun away from the auction. There was a lot of things that took away from the auction last year, but I'm not going to get into it here. And then Sunday morning was similar to ours, although Sunday morning was when they had their board meeting. And ours, Sunday mornings are chapter reports. So each chapter will get up and talk about everything they did over the last year, fundraisers, outreach, whatever it might be. And then there is also a business report where you find how the affiliate is doing. Now, that report in Nevada came on Saturday in general sessions, and that's pretty much it. And then everybody breaks and you say goodbye and everybody goes their separate ways. Now, there were a couple of interesting things. If you remember back in November when our last convention was, it was in Erie. And Erie is in the northwestern corner of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is in the southeastern corner of Pennsylvania. So it's like when you measure a TV, you measure it diagonally. That's how you measure. And that's about as far as you could travel in Pennsylvania and still be in the state. And a lot of people didn't go last year from the Philadelphia area because they said it was too far. We chartered a bus. It was $120 to go on that bus, whether you picked it up in Philly, Allentown, Harrisburg, or State College. Everybody paid the same. And as I say that, man, does that sound silly. Why would you pay $120? If you could get on in Philly and pay $120, why would you pay $120 to get on in Happy Valley, let's say? It was like 3 hours from Happy Valley to Erie. That's a lot per hour to be on that bus. Whereas in Philly, we were on for 9 hours and, it was a lot less, obviously. But in Nevada, and we had about 45 people on the bus. In Nevada, Reno evidently is around 8 hours from Vegas. They chartered a bus that went from Reno to a town called Pahrump, and then from Pahrump to Vegas. Now, Pahrump evidently is fairly close to Vegas. I want to say a couple of hours, maybe less. They chartered the same sort of bus, one of those 40 to 50 passengers, 55 passenger buses, paid about $6,000, which is around what the NFB of Pennsylvania paid for our bus to Erie last year. They had a total of 12 people ride the bus. So everybody got their own row. And I mean, when I say their own row, they got their seat, the seat next to them, and the 2 seats across the aisle. So, so you had plenty of leg room and room to stretch out there. Pennsylvania, there were some empties, but again, like I said, probably only a handful, maybe 6 or so. I think our passenger count, I think our seat count, I think was 50 or 52. I don't remember, but you can see the difference. So the affiliate took a bigger hit out in Nevada, and the difference was the folks who came down from Reno didn't seem to matter. And maybe it's because they were going to Las Vegas, and maybe the people in Philadelphia didn't want to go to Erie because it was Erie. I thought Erie was nice. And as I've said before, if Erie were closer, I'm sure we would go more often because it was a nice setup there. The food was pretty good. The hotel staff was pretty good. Again, we were coming off a very bad year the year before that in Harrisburg at the Crown Plaza, which was just a disaster on the hotel side of things. The camaraderie and friendship and all that stuff was good, but man, the hotel sucked. I mean, it absolutely sucked. So if you're thinking about Harrisburg for anything, look elsewhere than the Crown Plaza because it was awful. Enough of that. When we started on Friday night in Nevada, Liz and I had the whole day because we flew in on Thursday night. We got there Thursday night. It was 9:00. So that means it was around midnight here. We just wanted something sweet. Happened to be a Chick-fil-A down the street. So we walked down there to get a milkshake and some fries because we really didn't eat dinner before we got on the flight. And we had that. We walked around the hotel just to get our bearings and to help me out a little bit more to see where things were, where there might be steps. And again, it's something different for me. I would have done it on my own had I been there on my own. But with Liz there, obviously it made it a lot easier because she could say, oh, there's this over there. Oh, we're walking past the Starbucks, which I may not have noticed. Now, the next night I had the meta frames on and I was asking what's over there, and it's telling me all these things. And again, I'll get more into them in a few minutes. So we got to walk around. We got to walk around the hotel and the casino, and we did all that on Thursday night. Went to bed. Friday, we had the whole day. So our plan was to eat an early lunch at In-N-Out Burger. I was there about a year ago, almost a year to the day, to the same one we went to, which is right on the Strip. Our hotel was not on the Strip, which was good in some instances and bad in others. It was good because everything around the hotel was reasonably priced. In-N-Out was cheaper because we went to one on Sunday. That was just down the street in walking distance, and prices were probably 6 to 8% cheaper than the one that was on the Strip. But of course, when you're on the Strip, there's a whole bunch of things to do. You could go into the other casinos and hotels and shops and all sorts of things. So after we went to In-N-Out on Friday morning, it really was Friday morning. I think we ate lunch at 11 o'clock, like we were in third grade. And then we walked around the Strip for a few hours and we went and checked out some shops, and I bought some candy at a candy store that I still have plenty of. And it was a nice afternoon. We relaxed for a little while, and then we took, I don't remember, a rideshare cab over to a Michael Symon restaurant called Mabel's over at, I want to say it was at the Palm. I don't remember the hotel. I think it was the Palm. So it was a 15-minute ride, maybe. It was $20 or $25 with rideshare. The one problem being off the Strip was we had to get in the car to go just about anywhere except In-N-Out Burger and Chick-fil-A. Liz also walked around on Saturday along the street that we were on. We were on West Sahara. So she went in, her neck was bothering her after the flight. She bought one of those neck pillows for the flight home. And so it was more of being in a regular, I don't want to say suburban but it wasn't like being in the middle of a city either where we were. So she was able to do that while I was in general session. So we went to this Michael Symon restaurant, getting back to that, on Friday afternoon, eating like we're 80 years old at 4 p.m. And it was funny because he was actually in the restaurant. It's a barbecue place. I liked it. Liz was a little underwhelmed with it. I would go back. It wasn't very expensive. I thought it was decent. I had mac and cheese. What else is new? And some sort of ribs. I think it was the kind of rib that they put on Fred Flintstone's car in the ending credits of the Flintstones. And Liz had baby back ribs. And again, I liked them. I thought they were good. Liz thought the cornbread was just okay. The cool thing was he was there and Liz got to see him. He was in town because the next day he was doing a book signing. She wasn't interested in his book, so she didn't go back because she could have gone back while I was at General Sessions. Then we go, after we get back, we have a couple of minutes, we go relax in our hotel room and then go down to the 6 p.m. start of the convention, which was kind of kind of eased into it because they had a buffet of, I want to say almost like finger foods and things like that. They had fried shrimp and things like that. And at this point, of course, we were full. So I didn't get anything until it came to dessert time because we didn't get dessert when we were at Michael Symon's. They had ice cream where you could put all sorts of toppings on. So Liz and I each had that. I was pretty full and Liz got it and I wasn't going to get any. She's like, you should go get some. And so eventually I went and I got it. But they also, a couple of speeches, nothing too long. The president of the NFB of Nevada, Mark Tatter, welcomed everybody, talked about a few things, and then we did Family Feud. Now, Lynn Heights, the president of the NFB of Pennsylvania, had suggested doing that at our convention. I thought, oh, this is great. They're doing Family Feud. I'm going to learn something here. Well, I learned a couple of things. The people who organized it didn't seem to ever watch Family Feud. And more importantly, they needed more than one mic to run this. Because what was happening is the person who was asking the questions was then asking, we surveyed 100 people about blah, 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 blah. And then both sides were just shouting out their answers. So people across the room couldn't hear that. And people were complaining. So they lost the room fairly early. And I was in the first set, the first games, and it was fun. I really did enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to when we do it in Pennsylvania, because for one thing, Pam Baccaro, who is the president of the Pennsylvania Association of Blind Merchants, runs a game once a month, a Family Feud game via Zoom. And so she's already got it down. Now, there are going to be some differences because everybody doesn't have the microphone in their hand like when they're on Zoom, but we know that each team will get a mic, and the host, which I'm guessing is going to be Pam because she does it every month. So that was one great thing that we learned, and they kept a total, I guess, and again, they didn't do it, in the real Family Feud, if you get the number one answer, then you can keep it or pass it to the other team, and then you just answer until you lose. You get 3 strikes, or if it gets passed to you and you get the 1 strike after the other team has failed. So it just went back and forth, and they just kept like a total of points. And then once somebody got to 100 points, that was over. That team won. I was on the winning team. Then Liz did it in the second game. I don't remember if she was on the winning team or not. I guess she was. Oh, no, she was on the losing team because we played the same team that we beat in the first game, and we won again, and we won another prize. It wasn't much. It was lip balm and some skin cream or something like that. Evidently, it's so dry in Nevada, you've got to keep this stuff. So one thing that is difficult in Nevada, in Las Vegas, is the way they have everything set up. The hotel is on one side. And to get to where the banquet areas are, you got to go through the casino or walk all the way around outside, a much longer walk. But of course, it's I don't want to say a more straightforward walk, but you're not cutting through. And when you're in a casino, it's like a trap. You can't get out. There's no way you can find your way out. Even sighted people have trouble. Liz, the first time through, we had to get our bearings and we made some wrong turns. So imagine if you can't see getting through the casino. And when we left that night from the convention and we're walking back through the casino, we noticed a guy that was having some difficulty, and he asked if he could grab my shoulder. And I said, sure. And he grabbed my shoulder because he was about a foot taller than me. And it turns out it was the national rep for the convention. Each state convention of the NFB has someone representing the president of the national organization. And in this case, it was NFB of Montana president Jim Marks. So he's holding onto my shoulder while Liz is holding onto my arm, my right arm, and he's holding onto my left shoulder. And he and I are talking as Liz is guiding us through around the chairs. And that's when did it become difficult for people to stand at a slot machine? And I guess, again, they want people to stay, so they want them to be comfortable. I mean, these are nice, cushy chairs, but they aren't secured to the floor, so sometimes they stick out a lot, and I was constantly running into them. I'll get onto that in a second. So Jim and I are talking, and I'm not paying attention. This is on me because Jim and I were talking, and he was telling me about Montana, and I told him I apologized to him. The only thing I know about Montana, I said, was what I've seen on Yellowstone. So obviously not a lot. He didn't know John Dutton and swears he was never the governor. So we get through, we're almost out of the casino, and Jim said to me, I thought your voice sounded familiar. I said, oh, do you listen to White Canes Connect? He said, yeah, I've listened to a couple, but I think I've heard you more on That Real Blind Tech Show. And I thought that was kind of funny, and I laughed. And of course, I told my friend Brian once I got back of what he said. But the next morning, Liz wasn't going to the convention, so I walked over there by myself. And getting to the place was not a big deal because I knew I walked into the entrance, I walked down to where there was an opening on the left, I made a left and just kept going to the left until I got to a wall where there was a Panda Express, made a little bit of a right, and then made a left, and I went up the escalator, boom. That wasn't an issue. And it was tricky, though, because I had a Starbucks with me, and I was dreadfully afraid of running into somebody and dumping the tea all over myself or all over them, and then having to go back and get another one, and you start the whole 5-minute steeping process and all that all over again. But I made it through without an issue there. But I'm not going to lie, I was nervous walking through because of the way some of the chairs stuck out. Coming back after the morning sessions, after I ate lunch, I went back up to the room for a couple minutes to talk with Liz and whatever, and I couldn't get out of the casino. I walked past where I needed to make the right, and I just ended up doing this big loop around. I somehow ended up behind the escalator that I had gone up to get to the convention, and so I tried it again, and I'm listening all around, and I was hoping that in some casinos, they put all of the same machines near one another. And I kept hearing this screaming eagle, and I thought, is that the same one, or is that a different machine in a different section of the casino? And it turns out they have them all over the casino because Liz and I walked around through there again, and I heard them all over. So they're all over. So I finally found my way and went back for the afternoon. All was said and done. But that was the trickiest part. The fact that Liz was with me, getting out of the airport was easier, and it would have been difficult for me to get out of the airport. I typically will follow people who are in front of me and hope that they're leaving the airport and not going to a connecting flight. And I think that was pretty much the case. But in Vegas, where we landed, we had to catch I don't know what you want to call it, tram, a monorail, whatever it was, subway. I don't know if it was above ground, below ground, wherever it was, we had to get on one and go to the main part of the terminal to get out. And I had forgotten that even from just the year before when I was out there for a different conference. And so we got out, we got to the hotel, and that was a lot easier with Liz than it would have been had I been on my own. And again, as I've mentioned countless number of times, the little bit of sight I have makes the biggest difference in the world to if you're totally blind. It is just a big, big difference. And there are times over the past year I thought, well, okay, am I doing this? Am I able to do this because I have a little bit of sight? Sure, I can't read stuff, but I kind of could see if somebody's coming, and I don't always see people coming, and I run into them and whatnot, but it's very different. And so the fact that Liz is there made it a lot easier walking along the strip and finding out what's in front of me and asking Liz, hey, what hotel are we near? Or when we were near the fountains at the Bellagio, she saw a sign that said no swimming. And I took a picture. I'll put it up over my shoulder. Let's see if I guessed right on the correct shoulder. If you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, it's a picture of what basically looks like a swimming pool with a sign I think it was on a tree that said no swimming. I couldn't read the sign even with the picture. I couldn't read it. But I thought it was funny, so I took the image. The fountains weren't going off at the time. It was probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And So having Liz with me and going through the other casinos, and we went into one of them to use the restrooms, and just finding all that made it a lot easier. It didn't make it any easier when we got our ride share back to the hotel. And that is always trouble for me. Even I've talked about trouble in New York City where the rideshare pulls up across the street after Laugh for Sight a couple of years ago. The rideshare pulled up across 23rd Street. 23rd is a two-way street, and the in Gotham Comedy's right in the middle of the block. So the guy's waiting across the street. We didn't see him. We had somebody sighted with us that saw him, and so we walked over there. She knew it was safe to cross, and we crossed, and so forth. So having Liz with made a big difference for me, except for when we got the rideshare back to the hotel, because it said, okay, meet your driver at the pickup point, which I thought we were standing at. And it turns out he was down at another entrance to a different hotel. We thought we were standing in front of the hotel. We were not. That was the only real hiccup in our traveling, but we found him and he looked for us and we were good to go. And we got in and we went back to the hotel. So all of that was nice. And it was fun to be away. It wasn't long. Like I said, we went out Thursday evening, 6:00 flight out to Vegas. Again, didn't do much when we got there. Friday that's when we really had time to do things. Saturday was all NFB stuff for me. Liz did some things. She sat by the pool. She, like I said, walked down the street to do some things, got lunch and so forth on her own. And then Sunday, I was at the convention in the morning, and then she checked out and checked our bags at the front desk so that we could do stuff, because we were on the red eye coming home Sunday night. And we thought, what are we going to do all day Sunday? We can't really go swimming because, well, first of all, we didn't bring our bathing suits. Second of all, it was only around 70 degrees that day. So another reason not to go in. And when we were looking around the hotel on Thursday, when we got there, we noticed there was a movie theater attached called Cinebar. It's part of the Regal, where they come and take your orders at your seats and you can get whatever you want and so forth and so on. And of course, when Sunday came, we thought, oh, why don't we go? That would be a great thing to do. It's not a lot. We don't have to get in an Uber or Lyft to go over to the Strip. We can go to the In-N-Out Burger for lunch up the street. We were going to do 2 meals on Friday, and we thought that would have just been too much to do lunch maybe on the Strip and then dinner before we went to the airport at the In-N-Out Burger down the street. And I thought, that is too much to eat. And so we decided just to walk down the street, get lunch, and then go to the movies. And that's what we did. And we had some downtime where we were sitting around waiting for the movie to start in the lobby area, which again was a bar. So it was, for a while, it was quiet. And then March Madness stuff came on. I think it was March Madness. Maybe it was just NBA stuff. And when we did all that, I was taking some calls from folks, and then we went to the movies. And we asked about the device for the blind and visually impaired. They assured me they had them. And I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew it because it always happens. It never works. Oh, we forgot to charge it. Oh, this cable is bad. Oh, the device is bad. Whatever it is, they never, ever work for me. I get the device. You can't test it until the movie comes on. You can't test it in the previews. It doesn't work in the previews. The audio description only starts when the movie starts, when the beginning credits come on. So I'm listening and nothing's happening. I'm listening, nothing. Credits are coming on. Things start happening. Liz is telling me what's happening. I'm telling her I don't hear it in the headphones. She's going to go. I said, you know what? Just tell me what's going on. I don't want you to walk around to try and get these fixed, because it always ends up on her, because she can easily run out and tell the guy and then get him back. She saw somebody in the theater, so she went and asked, grabbed my device, gave it to them, and then within a few minutes, he brought me a new one. I put it on, I hear stuff, but the audio quality is terrible. If you were listening to a podcast and you heard the quality like this, you would stop listening. And I gave it to Liz and I said, is this me or is this just not good? And she listened. She's like, that is unbelievable. It was every third word was being said. And what was worse, it was only the audio description coming through the headset. So imagine having and I'm holding up the headset that I use when I do podcasts, audio only, over the ear, like you're wearing earmuffs, like Louise Belcher, that go over the ears so you can. It was great to hear the crappy audio description. And again, the audio description wasn't the bad part. It was the technology that had failed. The problem was I couldn't hear the dialogue with the headset on. So I had to have one on my ear, like I'm showing now, and the other earpiece resting on my bald head. And that is one good thing about having a bald head. It didn't have hair there to have it slide around. It just kind of kind of adhered to my head. So it was very disappointing, and I always expect the worst with the audio description. It just never fails. It never, ever fails, whether it's going to a play or it's going to the movies. It was the first movie I've been to since COVID, and I'm not excited to go back. It's not cheap, as you know, to go to the movies. Now, we got a matinee price, so that part at least was good. It was only like $12.50 for each of us, $25 total, which I thought was high, but I was texting with my friend Alex, and he had gone to the same movie, The Accountant 2, the night before, and he paid like $15 more. I couldn't believe it. And he was in the Philadelphia area, so go figure. In Vegas, it was cheaper. Even, again, matinee pricing, I don't know what the regular pricing was. So it was just disappointing, and it just makes it, even if the movie is great, it makes it tough to like it because I knew I missed stuff. And Liz told me after, do you remember that part where da-da-da-da-da? I said, is that what happened there? I didn't know. So it's just frustrating. When it works, when you watch at home, it makes it that much easier because if it doesn't work, you just shut it off and find something else. When you're in the movies, you can't change the channel. Everybody else is watching the same thing. Unless, I guess, you ask everybody in the movies, hey, can I change this? I guess that wouldn't fly, right? But I will watch that again when it's on whatever service it's on, assuming it has audio description when it comes out on streaming. If it doesn't, then forget it. I will not watch it again because movies Liz and I we watch over the course of a few days, and a lot of times audio description falls asleep on the couch. So if it has audio description, I will definitely watch it again because I did like what I saw and heard of it. So that part was frustrating. So after that, we finished up there, grabbed our bags, and went over to the airport and just kind of hung out there waiting for the flight to leave. No issues with the flight. We flew Frontier, which I know people probably think less of for that, but we had no problems with it. The seats weren't that comfortable, but I don't think that was a Frontier thing. I think that was an Airbus thing. And combined, our total to fly to and from Vegas for both of us total was about $358 or something like that. I think it was $176 each. So in that ballpark, I forget what it was. $158 each. I don't remember. It was roughly about $350 for airfare combined. And I thought that was pretty good. I also got a pretty decent deal going to New Orleans, but not quite as good as going to Vegas. So all in all, it was a great trip. And I was happy to get to meet the folks in Vegas from the Nevada affiliate. And I'm looking forward. I know a few of them will be at this national convention in New Orleans, so I'm going to see them down there. And the stuff that I learned, some of the stuff that I learned, for example, the Family Feud stuff is going to be very helpful. The other things that I learned, we do a lot of things the same. Everybody, no matter what state you're in, loves door prizes. And it's also a great way to get people to stay in the event so you can win that door prize. I also learned that Nevada, as an entire affiliate, has 77 members, which is up a good percentage from what they had the previous year. But in Pennsylvania, I don't know the total number that we have. It's between 150 and 200. And the two Philadelphia chapters, Greater Philly and Keystone chapter, have around that same amount, 77. Somewhere in that ballpark. Keystone has in the low 30s. Greater Philly has, actually we have more because Keystone has in the low to mid 30s. Greater Philly has about 60. So just those two chapters alone have more than what the entire Nevada affiliate has. So it's a different thing. It's just, they have a couple of the main cities and then there's just a lot of space. which Pennsylvania has some space, obviously in the middle areas, but again, we have many more members and a much bigger state for that matter. I just thought it was interesting. The folks from Reno didn't really bat an eye going to Vegas. And again, maybe because it was Vegas. Whereas the folks in Philly had a big issue with going to Erie. Again, I know two different cities. I get it. But I thought that was interesting. Now, I told you I bought the Meta frames, the Meta Ray-Bans, which were not made for blind folks, but they are awesome for blind folks. Hey, Meta, what's in front of me? Hey, Meta, what does that sign say? Hey, Meta, blah, 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 blah. And instead of having to take my phone out when I'm in Penn Station the next time I go up to New York to wave it around and then try and get it up to my ear to hear what it's saying when I'm looking for the Starbucks or the men's room or whatever, now I'll have them right on my face. And I got the transition ones. And at first I didn't think the transitions were getting dark enough, but I realized the other day that they are. And it just makes things a lot easier. Now, I haven't explored all the things I could do with them, but I've shot some videos. I have a video to edit that I shot when I went to the Keystone meeting last week that I'm looking forward to putting together. It's going to be, of course, in vertical, but I'll be able to edit it in CapCut and hopefully have a little thing to put up I'll put it up probably on the NFB YouTube channel, NFB of Pennsylvania. It's at NFB of PA is the NFB YouTube channel. So I'll link to it once I have it done. I just haven't had a minute to do it because of some things going on. But I really am happy with the Meta frames. Again, they were only, I think I paid $379 because I got the transitions. You can pay less for the ones that are always sunglasses that look just like the Wayfarers. And I did get the Wayfarer style, but again, I've got the transition lenses so that when I walk into a store, if I'm looking in a supermarket for something, I can just keep asking, hey, Meta, where's the produce aisle or whatever I'm looking for? And because I have enough sight that with the transition lenses, I'll be able to see a little bit, hopefully to avoid shopping carts and people and displays. So I'll put a link to the ones that I have. It'll be an affiliate link because I did get them from Amazon. And like I said, if they were made for blind folks specifically, they'd be 10 times the price. And they're not, thank God. So they're as far as assistive technology, they are very, very inexpensive. Most assistive technology you can't find it for less than $1,000 to $1,500, depending on what it is. There's a few handheld items and magnifying glasses that you can get for under $1,000. But for the most part, if you want tech, it is going to be more than $1,000. And sometimes some of the Braille note takers are upwards of $5,000, $6,000. I don't know Braille. I can't feel anything, so not a problem for me. So again, check that link down in the description. You can check out the Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. Again, I really like them. I wore them all day during the Keystone meeting. In fact, I wore them so long that they died. That was the only time that I've had them on for so long and used it so much that they died. Like I said, I shot a lot of video that day, asked a lot of questions. So they were constantly in use. And I think they lasted, I put them on at around 9 o'clock that morning, give or take. And I think they died probably around 2. They were on the whole time. And they were working a good portion of it. During the meeting, I wasn't using them a lot, but I did record parts of the meeting. I recorded some other stuff, getting on the train and so forth. So I got a lot of use out of them. And I didn't take the case with me because I didn't have deep enough pockets to put the case in, comfortably take it with, and I didn't want to take a backpack. But always great going to Vegas. Again, happy that Liz and I could go together. Jane came down and watched and stayed with Ziggy because we didn't know Jacob's schedule. And so she worked from home on that Friday and that Monday and went back Monday night. And I was really glad we went. And I think Liz was too. And I thought it was going to mess Liz up for that whole week that we came back, but she ended up making it through because she's exhausted by the end of the week no matter what. So she made it through and all was good. And now we're looking forward to going to New Orleans. And at some point, I wish that we go to Spain or France, Portugal or Italy to take a look around along the coast, along the Mediterranean coast, but we'll see what happens there. So that's all I have this week. We did just drop episode 135 of White Canes Connect. It is for the Blind Birder Birdathon. And while I'm not really interested in birds. I always wonder what birds I'm hearing. And as I talk about in the episode, when we lived in media, there was a bird that was back in the trees behind our house. It sounded like a cell phone, the way it sang. And I was assured it wasn't because Liz would come out and see where it was up in the trees. But we talked to a couple of folks, one of the organizers of the event, which is Sunday, May 18th. I'm hoping I have this out by then. And one of the folks who are local and going to have an event to piggyback on that in Malvern at a park there during the event from 4 to 6. I'm busy this weekend with going to the Spring Fling Blind Vendor Showcase out in Harrisburg. I'm looking forward to that. It's a fundraiser. We're going to have blind vendors there selling their products and services. And it's also a fundraiser, so we can make some money for the organization to help folks to get to national convention and state convention, things like that. It's at the Best Western. So again, I'm happy to get back out there and see the hotel and get a good feel for the hotel because that's where our state convention will be in November. But check out episode 135. Episode 134, we talk about the Spring Fling Blind Vendor Showcase. Pam Baccaro and I talk about it and talk about what's going on. I'll put links to both down below in the show notes and description. So that's it. That really is all I have for this episode. In-N-Out Burger, we wish you would come to the East Coast. Liz loves it. I love it. Very inexpensive. And animal style, double animal style for me. Liz got a single animal style, no cheese for her. Just really good. We really liked it. And when I was in Harrisburg last week for another event, the Uber driver said to me, "Oh, I didn't think much of In-N-Out Burger." We're like, "What? What do you mean?" So we were happy with going. Show notes are available over on the website, ican'tseeyou.com/285, ican'tseeyou.com/285, numerically speaking. And remember, I Can't See You sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 characters long. iCapital Please reach out to me on the socials, as I mentioned earlier, at David Benj, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, many other places. Blue Sky. I know I'm forgetting some, but at David Benj is pretty much where you'll find me, except for on TikTok. I do not have TikTok. Is not at David Benj. It's I Can't See You Podcast. There may be 1 or 2 videos up there from me. You could also reach out via email, ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com, ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. Please give me a buzz, give me questions, comments, show ideas. Tell me something you've done in Vegas that you would recommend doing if I go back or when I go back for something. I wanted to shoot a machine gun a couple of years ago, but because of flight delays, I couldn't do that. That was not on the Strip, of course. Maybe next time. Again, reach out via phone with any questions, comments, show ideas, or anything you've got to tell me. 646-926-6350. Again, 646-926-6350. You've got up to 3 minutes. Leave your name and town if you do leave a voicemail, and I would love to hear from you. Again, 646-926-6350. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of I Can't See You. Be well, stay safe, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.